interesting time. I have a great deal of desire to participate in this growth. I don't mean personally to prosper, but to see India grow, and I think to see the quality of life of the Indian people rise. Making money is not everything. I think seeing a community develop, seeing children being more healthy are all issues where I think many of us should have a great sense of desire to participate. And I hope I could make some difference in those areas.
Ladies and gentlemen, what a day this has been. It's an end of an era, like many people say, but then people also say that there is a little bit of Tata in all of us, in our homes, in our lives. Ratan Tata leaves behind a legacy that is unmatched, it is unparalleled. And I have two very, very fine gentlemen, very close friends of the late Ratan Tata joining us on the broadcast. I want to say thank you to Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani, the co-founder and the MD of the Hiranandani Group, joining us. And also thank you for his time to Pirooz Khambata, chairman of the Rasna Group, also joining us on this broadcast. Dr. Hiranandani sir, let's begin by asking you, I was just going through your Instagram post, and one must say, you know, the kind of feelings, the kind of emotions that all of us today as a country are feeling when we say that there is a little bit of Tata in everyone's life, in our homes. What did Ratan Tata mean for you? What is the sense of loss, sir, that you're feeling and experiencing today?
Thank you for inviting me. It's difficult to explain what you are asking. Difficult to explain simply because a great man, a great industrialist, an achiever, a man who was a superman in the industrial and commercial field, who's achieved everything that you can imagine in his life as chairman of Tata Sons and chairman of so many companies. Successes beyond the Indian boundaries, wanting to acquire companies in the UK, automobile company, steel companies, at a time when nobody ventured across the globe to do that. And on the other hand, a man of great humility, simplicity, ethical values, and comes across as such a simple human being that at times you can't even think of him as being rich and famous and the Ratan Tata. You know, I mean, am I talking to Mr. Ratan Tata, who is all this and more? And then you suddenly realize that the humanness of him in personal interaction just takes over your interaction with him. And everything is down to earth. It's so earthy, so easy, so simple, and full of humanness. So all in all, I would say Mr. Ratan Tata was a beautiful human being with that ethical values which are second to none in the world, and probably touched the hearts of one in many to do it. But the humbleness which I think exceeded any possible person who have achieved even 1,000th of what he had achieved in his entire life. So that's really a feeling that I have about him in terms of his overallness. What do I say?
Pirooz, what about you? I mean, I'm sure the experience is quite similar, but you know, Ratan Tata has touched everyone's life in one way or the other, Pirooz. How would you want to remember him?
you were talking of names. My name carries a Tata. I'm a Khambata, so the last wordings are a Tata. The second sharing is actually was a very good friend of my father, and I just lost my father 2 years back, and I'm probably having the same feeling. But I honestly believe when such great people sort of give their legacy and go, I think we should not look at just beyond. We should look how we can take that legacies and follow in our day-to-day life, honestly. And I'll be very happy if today we talk about what he stood for. I somehow believe that we are a lot of billionaires in the world, and a lot of billionaires in the world are out showcasing what their billions can achieve. Somebody flaunts their best plane, somebody their yacht, somebody is trying to flaunt whatever the biggest, I don't know what to say, some celebration, whatever. But there is this gentleman who says, no way, I have all this, but in excess what I want to know is my love for dogs, my love for old people, my compassion for my employees, what I can do better in HR. And I think that part of where I call trusteeship of society, which a lot of us Parsi companies, in fact my own company is owned as a trust till now, and we have strict rules on what the money we make, how we are going to spend for society. That trusteeship of society is what I stand for. I'm a billionaire, but that billions are not mine. Of course I'll live a good life. I will live a good life. I'll eat well, I'll drink well, I'll stay well, I'll travel well. But that's it. There's no extravagant show of that wealth suddenly to make everybody feel that I am from superhuman. But I'm a normal man in my day-to-day life like anybody else. Probably I still believe he lived a life which probably any executive of Tata would live, so to speak. So that I think is what I think the message which the youth should carry. Second message we should carry is his decisions were all for India. Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India. Though the slogans have been made rightly so famous by our Prime Minister, they actually started with the Tata family. When at those days, even before independence, they started substituting import with Indian products. And I think the same message he did. But what he did differently is that he showed the world that India can conquer the world. So I think his acquisitions and global pursuit became a role model for people like me, that if Tata can do it, I can also do it. When I say me, means the youth in India, the people of India, the businessmen of India, and suddenly you saw that everybody thought, let us do it. And I believe that has really changed the whole paradigm. We have seen companies acquiring companies abroad. Like our own company, we are launching more new products abroad than in India today. So I think he gave us the whole vision of this called global expansion, and we should not look at a cocoon of only India and for India, but look globally. So his people, his vision of global, and his vision for what I call anything which cares for society is very important. But the last thing which I liked in his career, which I think also is great if you ask me, learning for people like me also, and that's what I said learn, is there's encouragement to youth and startups. A rich man says, okay, here I have done my job, but I want to encourage the youth. So he goes and invests in companies which are unknown. He goes and takes a blind bet on companies which possibly are good in some sphere. I think that is also something all of us should be evaluating. Okay, why should we not use part of our wealth for actually creating more youngster-owned Make in India brands, Make in India companies with innovative ideas? That way the ripple effect will come. Of course, 9 out of 10 may fail also. But imagine one way can become another Tata. He has actually created his own competition. Maybe in the companies he has helped, one of them can become much bigger, but today maybe after 20 years. So I think these are the type of things which I think we all have to learn. And the best tribute, honestly, we can give such a great man is give him a pledge that at least some 10% of his goodness or what he was doing, if we can spread into all people, we would have done our job, is the way I want to put it.
Absolutely. I think those are very, very powerful words and messages, Piruz, that you've been able to share with us. And Dr. Hiranandani, you know, I was again reading one of your pieces where you spoke about how Ratan Tata cancelled a trip to London to take care of his pet dog who was unwell. You know, these are images that are viral today on the internet. Everyone, I think, not just who's an animal lover, but everyone who talks about compassion, empathy, and who's lived that message. Why don't you just talk us through that entire, episode and tell us more of this side of Ratan Tata?
It's a beautiful side of Mr. Tata. Prince Philip had invited Mr. Ratan Tata to Buckingham Palace to give him an award for the kind of charity work that he's done, and also for the work the Tata Group has done in the UK. Another thing in terms of the acquisition of properties, acquisition of companies, employment, things that are done. It was a great honor that was there bestowed to him, and he took it as that. And at the last moment, he sent a communication saying that he's unable to make it to the program and he had to regret it. Now, just like Mr. Kambata just mentioned over here just now, his love and empathy didn't stretch to human beings, but it stretched to his pet dog. His pet dog was unwell, and he decided that he would sacrifice the visit and getting the award from the hands of Prince Philip, which he recognized. I mean, he felt good about it. And he said, no, I cannot go and leave my dog over here. He's unwell, and I must take care of the dog. And he didn't go. And not only that he didn't go in empathy, but Prince Philip, when he came to know about it, said, look at this human being. You know, what an extraordinary man. I've never heard a story like this in my entire life. Now, obviously, such things are never done. Nobody just gives up an award. Sometimes even a family member being unwell, he would travel. But here was his just pet dog, and then he decided that he's not going to go. So I think this empathy stretches out into the, what should I say, into the mind, heart, body, soul of the man. It's ingrained. It came out naturally to him. It was not something that he probably had to think about or, should I or should I not go? It was just straight point that no, he can't go. His dog is not well, and so he cannot travel as far as the country is concerned, and leave the dog alone. This kind of empathy, where does it exist? People don't do it for their siblings. They don't do it for their parents. They don't do it for anybody. And here is a person to do it. And a man at that level and that achievement, I mean, he could have had 20 people to look after his dog, and he certainly had a good veterinarian to look after his dog, but he still wouldn't do it. So I think it ingrained in him an ethos, which is greater than human being, the love for people and empathy and this thing. Second thing, which I think Mr. Kambata also adhered to, was ethical values. A very, very strong believer in ethical values. And they believed that the entire thing that he had inherited in terms of the Tata Trust and what he had to ingrain and continue were ethical values into the Tata companies also, not only the trust, but also the companies. And I think that is another factor which has made a difference to him and the reputation that the Tata brand brings to the table. I think today trust is about all that. And many of the institutions which have come up under the Tata brand, people rely on them implicitly and believe that, okay, if it is Tata, it is there. I remember the time when this question came up, am I buying a 24-carat jewelry? Is it 24 carat? And there's always a doubt whether, the jeweler is really giving me something which is correct or wrong. How can I get it certified? How can I get it checked? But when they went to a Titan store, a Tata store, a jewelry store run by the Tatas, they wouldn't even think about it. So I think the kind of ethical values that he brought about were things which were also in addition to what Mr. Kambata has said, I think really came into the companies too. So corporate life, personal life, his charity, his emotions, his ethical values stand out as an extraordinary human being. Where do you get people like that? And certainly not at the pinnacle of industry. Certainly a man I revere and been a mentor to me also at many times of life and shared with him this. We were part of an education process. And he was so much interested to know how the education institutions that we run are run and taken care of it as that. And would take a huge lot of interest in that also. last but not the least, let me tell you, we run a hospital and medical institution. So I used to share with him lots of work which is done by our institution. And we also talked about Parkinson's, because my father had Parkinson and he had Parkinson. In the last 4 months, he created, I think around July, he created the Tata Parkinson Foundation. And he invited me to be on that trust. I was so touched because that man, even at that age, when he says, I'm giving up work, I'm giving up companies, I'm giving up the normal rule of life, he still wanted to do more and say, can we do research in Parkinsonian? Can we do something more over there? I'm connected with your hospital is doing good work. We want to work with one of the American universities whom we have interact with. We are talking to Cleveland Clinic. So all that and more, and this is just 4 months ago. And he was still keen and very keen and sent me phones and he sent me messages and we had interactive meetings. He got people flying down from different parts of the globe and we set up the trust. So one more thing to his credit and memory.
Absolutely. I don't think, that there's ever going to be another Ratan Tata, Piruz, though we should always be very, very hopeful. But, Piruz, there are a lot of things and a lot of his famous quotes that everyone is reading about today. And there is one of my personal favorites where he says, take the stones that people throw at you and use them to build a monument. I think in our everyday lives, we people struggle with isne hame aise bol diya, isne aise kar diya. But here is this man, who's just fighting almost everything. But still, he's not just hopeful, he's resilient. And like we just heard Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani say, that he wanted to give back, the kind of a leader that he was, the kind of a visionary that he was, the way he took everyone along, Piruz. Can there be ever again another Ratan Tata? Can anyone even come close to him?
No. That's why I said a few minutes back, even if we all become five persons, I think that will be better for the country. And through your channel, I would like to make a humble request, a very humble request to the government, that he is the right candidature for a Bharat Ratna. Honestly, if somebody deserves a Bharat Ratna, is Sri Ratan Tata ji. Because it will actually, what it will do is, more than him, he has got enough goals, he has got enough laurels, I don't think. But the fact is, today's youth should see him as a role model. I don't think there are many role models today left. I don't think the businessmen I see coming out of US, I don't want to say names, China or even some others, can fit that role model. So if you elevate him to the status, I am sure it will help the country more than him. And the youth will also take this very differently. So my humble appeal is, through your channel, is he should be conferred the Bharat Ratna. Having said that, I can definitely narrate 2-3 things where I saw he was beyond his times. Like, I nowadays in associations chair a committee of affirmative action. Now, much before affirmative action was born, Tata's embodied affirmative action. Honestly, if we are SC, ST, we have to start taking them inside, training them, skill development. So they thought about it, because don't forget one thing, that if we don't take those groups as part of the mainstream, that it is alienation. Similarly, people with disabilities, Tatas were the first company in India to look at giving job to PWDs, which are both these committees I have been chairing and trying to see. And most of the time I see that a Tata group is better than any other group in India in these 2 things. Second, when it comes to religion, there's something new I am telling you. Everybody is religious. But he was very clear. He knew the difference, keeping religion aside, business aside, country aside. I don't think he was religious, but he never said that I will carry my religion. And for example, charities. Charities for everybody. It was not for one religion. The charities flew to Parsis. It, in my mind, hardly flew to parties. It flew out to everybody. Similarly, he would go to a temple, but it was not something like he would like to do with 10 media people. Chalo bhai, 10 media ki team leke gaye ek temple mein, and we are trying to do some puja. He'll do it on his own and come back. Religion is best left there. I think, see, the whole way of life of a businessman, he embodied. So that is, I think, something which honestly I would really love today's youth and all that, people, business people, really take in them. And that's why I'm saying he should be conferred a Bharat Ratna.
Absolutely. I think that is something that we all second, we all feel that. And just my last bit, Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani, when was the last
But we
meeting?
need times to really talk about it.
Oh yes, absolutely. Dr. Hiranandani, when was your last meeting you had with Ratan Tata? How was that? Because I do know that he wasn't in the best of his health, but he did still come out till the car to see you off.
Yes, about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I had an opportunity to meet him, and or was it 6 weeks ago? And he was his usual best. We talked about Parkinson's, we talked about education, we talked about he remembering a meal that he had in my house, and he said to please thank my wife, which he had 1.5 years ago. And he said, I remember having a good meal at your place, and reminded me and said, please thank your wife. 1.5 years ago, the meal that took place in my house was, I mean, such a simple person and simple at heart that all these things. The simplicity of the man really did it. And then he took the steps to come out to the door, and he came right down to the car. And I was kind of shocked. And then, of course, he has had a setback in his health after that. But what a beautiful memory of the man who was a fantastic human being and done. I think the Bharat Ratna will have a plus on the name of Bharat Ratna, that the type of persons who have received it is also Mr. Ratan Tata. I think what Mr. Kambata is saying is absolutely true. And I think Bharat Ratna will also be honored along with the honor given to Mr. Ratan Tata. Both will get an equal honor in terms of his being awarded the Bharat Ratna in this day. That's my ultimate feeling. I can't say more, really.
Appreciate your feelings and thought, Dr. Niranjan. And Piruz, before we close this conversation, Ratan Tata ji famously said, I followed someone who had very large shoes. He left me a great legacy, and I tried to follow that legacy. Can anyone fill that shoes? The answer clearly is no. What is it that we all can do, in our own little ways to remember, to pay our tributes to late Ratan Tata?
I did mention, but if you're asking me again, let me mention there are certain few qualities which are very clear. One, working for society but not selfish, for your own goal. I definitely believe businessmen are losing that. They are parking their monies abroad, they are round-tripping their money, they have put it in London and Dubai. So work for the country, be for the country, live for the country, die for the country. Definitely is something which we should embed from such people. Number two, self-reliancy, Atmanirbharta, not reporting on import, trying to do the long grind but doing it yourself. A lot of that has been coming from the Tata Group, and definitely a great learning for all of us. Number three, spend time on societal issues. What are topical? Sometimes affirmative action, sometimes Mr. Hirandani said set up something for Parkinson. We should not live a life where we are discussing on coffee table books what the world needs. We should do it ourselves. And I think that is what this man symbolizes, that I will do it myself. And I will at least help to do it myself. I will start it myself. So somebody does, everybody follows. Number four, which I did mention but want to repeat, globalization of Indian industry, taking it global. And fifth and not the least, honestly ensuring that what the money we are making is not our money, it is people's money, and let us spend it on that. And I think these are the type of values if we are able to lead in our day-to-day life. All of us, maybe million of us do it all what I'm saying. I'm sure we will leave a legacy behind which we just now talked about.
Absolutely.
In my mind.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I think these are all very powerful anecdotes, very powerful lessons we all have to learn from Ratan Tata's life. And the best thing is we must celebrate his life. We must carry forward that legacy. Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani and Piruz Kambata, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and for speaking to us here on Times Now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us at this occasion. Thank you.
Thank you.